When I first came here, a broken man, you see, I had to take a look at who I am.
I would spend hours and hours in this tunnel because it would relieve and alleviate the despair of being homeless.
Living on the streets got the best of me, but now there's a way out, and I'm glad to see.
After returning from service, I spent 12 years living in the streets. It was music that saved my life. My name is George Hill, Marine Corps vet, and I am the founder of the New Directions Veterans Choir. New Directions helps homeless veterans get clean, get jobs, and get back on their feet. You know, I never would have thought that we'd go from being homeless to singing on America's Got Talent. A winner is someone who keeps the music in their heart alive.
Live from Pasadena, California, it's the 127th Rose Parade.
As part of Wells Fargo's ongoing commitment to the men and women of the armed services, we are proud to present the vocal stylings of the inspiring and award-winning Veterans Choir for New Directions, an organization that provides hope and support to military service personnel who've experienced homelessness after their discharge.
From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. My home, sweet home.
Ladies and gentlemen, New Directions Veterans Choir.
This is my country, land of my grandmother. This is my country, grandest forever. I pledge my allegiance, America, the whole. For this is my country, to have and to hold.
In this insider-exclusive investigative two-part network TV special, our news team goes inside one of America's most successful nonprofit veterans programs for America's vets, New Directions for Veterans, to meet its dedicated staff, elected leaders, corporate sponsors, vets in recovery, and successful New Directions alumni who will share how and why this amazing program has been so successful over 25 years. Since 1992, New Directions for Veterans has helped our nation's heroes successfully address the challenges of life after military service, guided by the mission to empower men and women who served in the military and their families to lead productive and fulfilling lives. New Directions helps Los Angeles area homeless veterans and veterans at risk for homelessness to effectively transform their lives.
We provide substance abuse counseling, mental health counseling, family services, legal services, and also we provide job training and placement. Although the homeless situation has improved somewhat in Los Angeles, we still have 3,500 veterans out living on the streets. So most importantly, we provide housing for our veterans. Our flagship facility is located at the West LA Veterans Administration campus. The Welcome Center offers a 24/7 housing program for our veterans. We have two homes for veteran women, the Barrington House and the Mitchell House. We have a permanent supportive housing project located in North Hills. We recently opened El Monte Veterans Village. In Boyle Heights, we have permanent supportive housing that houses homeless senior veterans. The Burbank Bungalows house 11 veterans in single one-bedroom apartments. We also have a program utilizing Shelter Plus Care vouchers to accommodate veterans throughout Los Angeles County.
I was a pastor at a church, and then I was a full-time student. It was then where I was struggling. My wife didn't even know.
New Directions and their corporate sponsors believe they owe it to our veterans to give them the help they deserve for putting their lives in harm's way for our nation.
The narrative method supports New Directions because we believe the veterans deserve another chance.
I'm with the Southern California Gas Company. We've been a part of the community of Los Angeles for over 150 years. One of the things that we take pride in is that our employees look like and represent the communities we work and serve, and veterans are a part of that.
Hi, I'm Jason Geeter, Region Executive with Bank of America. We support New Directions because of all the great work that they do with the homeless veterans in our communities. They're able to take a holistic approach to understanding the needs of our warriors.
Now let's meet some of these key staff at New Directions and some of their sponsors who work so tirelessly to help every veteran in need in Los Angeles, and how you can help them continue their mission of helping all veterans rebuild their lives. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from West Los Angeles, California. It is my great pleasure to introduce Yvette Kelly and David Baylor to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Yvette, you're the president, the CEO of New Directions. Tell our audience a little bit about New Directions. What's your mission here?
New Directions for Veterans is a 501(c) nonprofit organization that has been around for over 25 years, helping men and women veterans in substance recovery, homelessness prevention, getting them off the streets, taking care of them as veterans, helping them lead more fulfilling lives. So we offer all sorts of programs, everything from an overnight stay here in the West Los Angeles VA campus, overnight stay, warm bed, a meal, to more permanent types of housing, such as permanent supportive housing, and we have locations across the county. So right now we have about 200 people that are in transitional type programs, and those are programs where it's very intensive for substance abuse issues, co-occurring disorders to include homelessness plus possibly mental health issues.
Right.
And then we also provide apartment-type lifestyle living in, like I said, different cities, different areas around Los Angeles County.
What I want to bring out to our audience is this is a long-term program. It's a 2-year program. This is not just a place to, flop your head and get a meal and then you're off to further self-destruction. Both of you have served in the military. You're a retired colonel, and very impressed with that. And I understand you're a Vietnam vet, and you're the chairman of the board for New Directions for veterans, right? Mm-hmm. So tell our audience, from your perspective, what do you see the board doing, and where do you see New Directions going, and what kind of help do you see New Directions needing over the years?
Well, as Yvette mentioned, we've been in business here serving veterans for more than 25 years. And over that time, the needs of veterans have changed. We started as a program that was purely transitional and supported veterans, getting them off the street, trying to get the drug addiction and substance abuse issues handled. But in recent years, we've become involved in permanent supportive housing. And the difference between housing and permanent supportive housing is that we provide support. We have case managers, we have counselors that work with the veterans once they're housed to make sure that they can stay housed, that their issues don't reoccur, that any substance abuse issues they had in the past don't come back.
Right.
And we make sure that they have a long-term success rather than fix today and slide back into bad behaviors.
Right. You have a limited number of housing accommodations. Is there a point in time when a veteran becomes, let's say, financially able to go out and get housing that's not subsidized, where they ask to leave, or you ask them to, hey, why don't you make room for somebody else? Does that exist? How does that work?
Well, we try to keep our hands into the veteran's lifestyle just to make sure that that person is ready to transition out of these services, because we want a veteran to stay up to 24 months if that's what he or she needs to do. And that means the mental health support, that means the workforce development, that means making sure that person knows how to interview for a job and how to make sure that person knows how to keep a job, how to cook for themselves. So we don't want them to leave before they're ready to go.
Right.
But once they're ready, we do have permanent supportive housing facilities. We have 11 bungalows in Burbank. We have family housing in Glendale for the Veterans Village. We have senior living. Veterans over 55 years and older can stay at our place in Boyle Heights. We have one in El Monte, another facility. And then we have 2 buildings that accommodate roughly 150 people at the Sepulveda campus, VA campus.
Yeah, when New Directions started way back in 1992, there was a house on Barrington. There was Maxine Waters helped with getting a $5 million grant to renovate this building. How did all of these other facilities happen? Was it through sponsorships or what?
Well, it's a combination of things. There certainly are opportunities to work with the county and the city of LA in terms of helping in these activities. We've partnered with other nonprofits. We don't believe that New Directions should be a lone ranger out there. We look for people who are interested in helping veterans, who have capabilities that we can combine with so that we can essentially be what you call in the military a force multiplier, where you're able to take resources from 2 or 3 people and have a much greater opportunity to help than something we could do on our own. But just as important are supporters that we have from industry, from community associations, from other charities, and individuals. We have fundraising efforts. We have an annual dinner in which we honor people that have been influential in helping veterans and in the veteran community. That's a fundraising opportunity for us. We also have an annual veteran Memorial Day, run here on the VA campus that allow people to come, spend a morning with other people who are interested in veterans, who want to just come out and have a good day in the sunshine, but also to contribute to helping veterans.
Some of your big supporters have been Wells Fargo, I understand.
That's
Bank
correct.
of America, correct?
That's correct.
What message would you want to send to other major companies and corporations and private industry out there about why they should and how they can help New Directions continue? Because this is a continual program. It goes on, and the need for funding increases and goes on to expand. So what message would you have to say to corporate America?
I think the big message is these are men and women who have served us, who have put their lives literally on the line for us. And many of them have come back with issues that they need to deal with that require some help. And all we're asking is that responsible people in the country think about helping the people who have helped them and have served them. I think that it's not charity per se. It's an investment in the future of these men and women and in the future of the country, because you have to continue to support the people who have supported America.
What about yourself, Yvette?
In Los Angeles, they just had a count for the county, and we have 4,500 homeless veterans on the streets. And as Dave indicated, they deserve better. Our veterans do not deserve to be sleeping in the streets. They've served their country honorably in most cases. They need a hand to get them back up to lead fulfilling lives. So it's so important that our corporate sponsors can help us achieve that.
Okay. How does the board, you have a lot of people on the board, how does the board help New Directions achieve its mission?
In a couple of ways. One of our responsibilities as a board is to make sure that the organization is run well and that it's fiscally stable and that it has, it's run as any business should be run. And as a result, we have a number of people on the board who have various expertise. We have lawyers, we have people who have been business people, we've had doctors and others who can lend their expertise to the staff here in terms of helping them deal with issues or answer questions and whatnot. And the other thing that the board really has to do is fundraise for the organization, is to reach out to our contacts, to be ambassadors in the community, to those of us who are working to encourage our companies to participate in supporting in New Directions and veterans, and the rest of us in terms of working with other people in the community to make sure that veterans issues are raised to a level of awareness that it's not out of sight, out of mind, which is very easy to do. People send our young men and women off to war. They And when they come back, it's very easy to think that that's over. The war's over. People are back from Iraq or Afghanistan, or in my case, Vietnam. But the war doesn't end for some people, and we need to make sure that those people continue to be supported.
Okay, I want to thank both of you for being on the program and your dedication to this program, because you're retired, aren't you? Basically, you're retired, and you could be playing golf.
I could.
But you're not. You're here. You're helping veterans, and I really appreciate it as a Vietnam veteran myself. And obviously, I want to thank you, too. We do have two other big supporters of New Directions, and would you introduce who they're going to be?
Well, we have Sherry Foos, who is a great ambassador for our program, and she conducts some wonderful therapy for our veterans. And then along with her, we have our clinical director, Matt Rohr, and he's coming in to talk a little bit about the comprehensive mental health care program. And also I'd like him to talk about the interns that he brings on board to help us work these things.
All right, let's do that right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Matt and Sherry to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell our audience a little bit about what you do here at New Directions, Matt.
I'm the Director of Clinical Services.
Okay. And remember, you're talking to homeless people out there, okay?
Yes.
So what do you do for these homeless veterans?
We offer psychological services.
Okay.
We offer a variety of groups, you know, that are help the vets deal with various traumas, one of which is the narrative method, which Sherry will talk about. But one of the things that I think is very unique about our program is that we incorporate a lot of clinical interns with all of the different schools. Because of the public's focus on homelessness, a lot of the money has been given towards housing first. And one of the things about housing first is you simply can't take a vet that's been on the streets for 20, 30 years, that's struggling with mental health and addiction, and put them in an apartment and expect them to be
better,
healthy.
Yeah.
And so one of the challenges that we face is, because of that funding, you know, a lot of our grant per diem monies, which is the money that was supporting mental health, was now taken away. So we've had to kind of enrich our internship program. And one of the
internship meaning these people work with volunteers
from all of different schools, from USC, UCLA, Pepperdine,
right?
And we've given them a really, really rich experience. And what's so rewarding for me as the director is to hear some of the students talk about their experiences with the vets, not only with the peers, but when they go back to their prospective schools and they share the richness and the multi-layered of these individuals. Not only do their peers say, wow, we want to come and intern at New Directions, but their professors are so profoundly moved by their stories.
Right. You know, I've often thought, because when I originally knew this program was just transitional housing, now you have permanent housing where you can put folks, veterans who have mental issues in some of these permanent houses, right?
Correct.
In these apartments. How does New Directions, are you allowed to go into someone's accommodation, their apartment, if you're not hearing or getting communication from them? How does that work?
One of the challenges that we have found here is that we can have a veteran that, excuse me, has successfully graduated the program and moved on to one of our permanent supportive sites. But because they didn't get the, adequate resources or social support or networking, they become very isolative. And we've seen some of these veterans, relapse.
Right.
And so in the 3 years that I've been here, we've had several gentlemen come back into the program again. So when Yvette came aboard, one of the things that her and I collaborated with is starting to expand some of our services so that when a veteran does leave here and has done well, is that we can follow them and be able to provide that therapeutic support so that they can continue on their journey.
Yeah, but my question is, how do you communicate with unresponsive people?
That's challenging, but we do have case managers.
Yes.
Because
they follow up on
because technically they are apartments.
Yeah.
So we can't just walk in.
Yeah.
But we do, employ case managers that, already have an established relationship with some of the veterans in the apartments. So they can they have the ability to knock on the door and say, hey, would you like to continue clinical services? We think that, you might be needing help.
Yeah.
We have this service that you can provide. And so
Right.
that's kind of our inroads.
Now, Sherry, you provide an in-house program here.
Mhm.
You're a volunteer, and you provide the ability to the veterans to try to explore who they are, right?
Yeah.
Tell our audience a little bit about your program. It's called the narrative method, right?
Exactly.
And what's that mean? Where did that name come from?
Well, it comes from a lot of different influences. It comes from narrative medicine, which was conceived as a way to teach empathy to doctors, and it comes from a lot of different modalities, from philosophy to social justice.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if we start in the middle of love or in the middle of friendship, and treat people as though we're friends, they will open up in a way that's very different from when we talk down to them, in the way that most of us actually have been treated our whole lives at school and through a lot of institutions that are too formal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So when we provide this space, and we have a very strict no rules policy, when we provide this space, nobody is being judged, nobody is ever shamed, and people are invited, sometimes for the first time in their lives, to think about things like, yeah, how do I think about this? How do I feel about this? As opposed to the assumptions and the beliefs
Yeah.
that are prescribed by the culture.
Right. And you've been doing this for quite some time, haven't you?
Yes.
And you do it as a volunteer, right?
Mhm.
It's very admirable. I'm
Well,
glad you do it.
I get way more than they get.
Yeah, because a lot of people, like in the 12-step program, there's a step where you have to write down a personal inventory. And I remember 30 years ago when I tried to write it, I stared at a blank page for 3 days. Because it's difficult because you don't, you haven't really looked at yourself.
Of course.
Do you implement that a little in your program too?
Absolutely. One of our core rehabilitation groups is recovery, and that's where I do get a lot of my interns kind of the freedom to kind of utilize their creative juices
Yeah.
to work with recovery in a kind of
Yeah.
a different manner than like a 12-step program, where they're introduced music, poetry,
Right.
art.
Do they get some sort of college credit for doing this?
Oh
as an
yeah, they
intern?
get hours.
They get hours.
So there's a
they can
trade-off.
put it like on their resume. and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this would be good for people who are in the.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So do you want to send a message to all the homeless vets out there that are still suffering, that should come to New Directions? What would you say to them?
Try and separate yourself, your soul, who you are, from the things that have happened in your life. Don't blame yourself for things that you had no control over.
Mhm.
It's not the same as saying, we don't owe amends for what we've done. But there is only hope when we think about things from a much broader perspective. What is really possible?
Mhm.
And when we're looking through the lens of the negative things that we've been told our whole lives, we're not going to find that.
Mhm. What about yourself?
And I would add to that this is a place where hope lives. When everything else and everyone else has failed in your life, there's hope here
Yeah.
that you can actually turn your life around.
Do you find that the police departments, like the LAPD, they have vets? They understand more so than somebody who's not a veteran that maybe these guys need some special help, which is available here. How could we work with the police departments and get that message out?
I think part of it would be to, invite them,
Yeah.
to some of our gatherings so that
Yeah.
we really get an understanding of like who a homeless person is, who a homeless vet is,
Yeah.
what kind of issues do they really face, where the behaviors that they may see on the streets
Yeah.
are really masking trauma.
Mhm.
That it's not that they're trying to be defiant,
Right.
they're not trying to get arrested.
Mhm.
This is what they've kind of gone through and what they've lived.
Right. And Sherry, you want to add something?
I think there's nothing like experiencing something firsthand. I had a lot of ideas about what this population might be like. I was totally wrong. I'm constantly surprised by the depth of wisdom and brilliance that
Mhm.
these vets have. And I agree, with what Matt's saying. It's imperative that people see and experience it for themselves because it's so beyond what we would have imagined.
Okay.
And unique.
And unique. Well, hey, I want to thank both of you for
Thank
being
you.
on the show.
Thank you.
continue your great efforts in helping veterans, and you have my admiration. Thank you.
And thank you for bringing awareness to the program.
Okay, welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right.
It's my great pleasure to introduce George Hill to the show. Welcome to the show, George.
Thank you.
You're an amazing guy. I'm so impressed with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't feel that way, but I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, and when I was looking at all of the, the statements that you had made, you said, I finally found my way to New Directions, right?
Yes.
You were on the street for 12 years?
Yes.
And what does that mean? I finally found my way to New Directions. Did you walk here? Did someone tell you about it? Where did you see that New Directions existed?
It's really strange how that happened. I'd wanted my life to change, period. I knew that if it didn't change soon, I would die, because I was at MacArthur Park and Skid Row downtown when it became the most violent place in the nation. And things had just gotten unbearable. One day I'd gotten out of yet another incarceration, and when it gets cold at night, you must have your blankets or your coats in a bag, or you're going to lose it, because there's nowhere you can hide it. I'm sitting down on this bag on the corner of 4th and Spring when it was the heart of Skid Row, and I saw a man coming down the street. I couldn't believe it. He had rags tied on his feet. You usually see homeless, see them bad off, and he was obviously mentally ill. His hair was matted in 2 big nasty dreads, and his skin was so dirty that the only place you could actually see the skin was through his joints. And that man walked down all the people on Skid Row. He walked past them, and he looked at me, snarled, reached in his pocket and pulled out $1 and change, because that's all he had. And he shoved it at me and said, "Here, man, I'll feel sorry for you." And that was it. I didn't know anything about New Directions. I just knew that, there was a VA and I'm going, because somewhere somebody's going to help me.
So how did you get to West LA? Is that where you came?
West LA, I hustled up a couple more cents, and I took that $1 and change from that homeless man, and those extra cents, and I got on the bus and I came out here.
So you came out here. Did you go to the hospital across the street?
I came to the hospital across the street.
And how did you end up here at this building?
Well, back at that particular time, they're not like they were then. I didn't get there in time. I was like at 3 o'clock, and I guess they closed at 2. So that was the last time that I got hit by water sprinklers. I went across the street where there's an armory, an army armory there, and I went to sleep in the corner and got hit by sprinklers. So I walked all the way to Santa Monica Pier, and then the next morning I walked back, and I still missed it. But when I finally came back on the 3rd day, they told me, they said, okay, well, we have these, they named a couple of programs here that didn't sound appealing, but there's said one place you kind of don't want to go, is New Directions. I said, well, why is that? They said, because it's structured. And I'm thinking to myself, as really, to me, as crazy as I was at the time, structure is exactly what I needed. So when I came here, and the part where I knew I was home was as soon as I walked in the doors, the floors were shining like they were when I was in the Marine Corps. The place was spotless and immaculate. And I said, man, this is where I need to be. And I decided right then that I was going to stay. And I come back to this day. 19 years later.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Your gift of singing, how did that figure in here?
Well, how that came about was, a lot of people don't think about it, but there are times that being homeless is a really miserable time. When I was in my deepest of despair, to keep myself sane, I would go into the tunnels underneath Wilshire at MacArthur Park, and I would sing. And I'd sing in there for hours, and it was like my own little studio because the sound was spectacular there.
Did anybody bother you when you were staying there? Anybody give you money?
The police didn't even bother me. There was nobody would give me, because I wasn't even there for money. I was just there to sing. But people, it would help other people because they'd go and they'd sit outside that tunnel and they wouldn't leave till I left. You know, so it was pretty good. But I came here and there's a stairwell here that has that same sound. So I used to go up in there and sing. And the founder of the program one day heard me sing and he said, "That's excellent. Well, we're getting ready to have these state senators come through here. And I want you to show them that, that we do more than just get our lives together. We're more than just school and jobs and all that we learn to live. So you're choir director." And I said, "Well, isn't that something?" I said, "Okay." and it was really funny because, he asked for some volunteers. So I had 2 volunteers and he said, "Nobody else? Okay, you, and you." And, and it was almost like herding cats at first.
Yeah.
There was the people that weren't able to sing, but was able to get them singing. And some people that came there with the senators, they loved it. They said, "Well, hey, there's a wedding next week. Could you guys sing for us?" So we sang for them, and then somebody there liked it. And then from then on, it just kept going. Now we go around the country singing and love it. Ever since we were on, like I said, America's Got Talent, that got us, one of the board members here actually, was a very influential entertainment lawyer, and he called one of his clients and said, "Look, I want you to help these guys." And she got her people, like all these people that were on The Lion King. They were our ringers for a while. They taught us how to, about the business, and we started getting pretty good.
Okay. In the beginning of the show, we heard some of your singing and your choir. Do you guys practice regularly or what?
We practice. We haven't practiced this month because we usually, when we have shows coming up, and our next show is actually starting a little bit later on in the fall. That's when we start gearing up. And what we do is we'll have basically a script. Like, for instance, however long the show is. Normally we do our own shows, normally an hour and a half. So we break it up into 2 45-minute shows, and then we start working on that show. We sing it just as the show goes.
Well, you're an inspiration, and I'm glad you're on the show, and I'm glad to hear it, New Directions.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to finally meet you as well. I'm very impressed with you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It is my great pleasure to introduce Galen Babb and Bob Penn to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
I understand at New Directions you get involved with helping these vets get jobs, get training. Galen, exactly what do you do?
Basically what we do for the veterans that are interested in employment or training, we go out and find them employment or find them the type of training they're interested in.
Okay, so let's give an example. A lot of people have been, let's say, homeless for example, George Hill was homeless for 12 years. You got guys coming in here that have been homeless a long time.
Right.
They don't have skills. Or maybe the skills that they had are a long time ago. They've expired. What do you do with somebody like a George Hill, for example, or somebody that really hasn't held down a job for 20 years? What do you do with them? What kind of training do you get with them? And what if they're 50 years old?
Well, the first thing you do is work on their soft skills, like learning how to fill out the application and learn how to present themselves to employers.
Okay.
And once you do that, with the ones that are interested in training, we try to figure out what type of training they want. Usually like warehouse training or security training, things like that.
So is there like on-the-job training, or for example, security training? You'd get them a job at a security company where they'd basically be a guard.
The first step is you have to get a license.
Got to get a license.
You got to get a state license.
Okay.
So they have to take a class to get a state license. And for warehouse jobs, usually for driving forklifts and things like that, you got to have a license.
Right.
So the first step.
So you help them get these licenses.
Yes.
Okay. What about yourself, Bob?
We do a workforce assessment with them. Sit down with the veterans. They don't necessarily come to us right away.
Right.
This is a sober living facility. So once they're far along enough in their sober living activities, and the case manager agrees that they're ready for employment, and the veteran agrees that they're ready for employment, they come to see Galen and I, and we do a job club and customer service workshop.
Right.
That's our way of kind of getting to know the vets, see how they show up for just the job club and the customer service part of it. Then both of us job developers sit down and do a workforce assessment with them.
Okay.
See what their plans are. Like you said, some veterans have been unemployed for months, some unemployed for 12 years. So it's a large variety of what we can do with them.
Yeah. Are there some corporations like Home Depot, for example, or Wells Fargo or whatever? Are there some companies that are more receptive to the graduates of New Directions than others?
Yeah, we have
that work with you, partners.
Yes, we do have partners, and they know what New Directions is because you can go online and see what New Directions is. And we kind of build that relationship on trust, and we try to evaluate who we're sending to them first.
All right.
And then they can even give us feedback how certain veterans are doing.
Okay. So do you have regular corporations, companies that are more receptive to people that you send to them because they've been through this experience? Do you? You were going to say
we have companies located in Santa Monica, Los Angeles.
What are the names of the companies?
We have veterans today working at UCLA through a company called Business Images, and it's basically doing janitorial services at UCLA.
Okay.
We've been working with them probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. In the period, usually the transitional housing program is about a 2-year program, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is there some point in time where you require veterans to say, hey, you need to get a job? Because in order to go to the next stage, which is kind of be, more self-dependent on yourself, you got to earn money. Is there a time period where you look to encourage them to do that?
One of the things that Bob and myself can encourage them, because when you try to push them to find employment, they don't keep it because they don't really want it.
Yeah.
That part comes in with the case managers.
Right.
When they get to us, they have to want to work.
Right.
They won't stay at a position that they really don't want to go to, even if they have the skills set for it.
Yeah.
That again goes with the evaluation with the case manager. Each individual veteran has each individual plan of what they want to do and how long they want to do it, or what part-time jobs, full-time jobs, temp jobs. And sometimes, like we said, when they're coming in off the street, throwing them into a full-time job can be somewhat terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So Gail and I do a lot of temp jobs, a lot of temporary jobs, and you get those first few paychecks flowing. They're kind of
gets their motivation up.
What else you got? It's like, well, we also got some training if you want to do this. We got this job going over here. It's full time, or do you rather get something 20 hours? And we try to work with the veteran and the case manager for each individual veteran and make sure we're doing the right thing for them.
Right. Just curious, training where?
Anything they want.
Yeah, like you send them to like junior colleges, trade techs?
No, it won't. Nothing usually past 3 months is what we do.
It's more vocational training, like skills training.
Yeah.
Okay, so they would learn on the job.
No, we have forklift driving training
here at New Directions.
No, we
go out and find it for them.
Yeah, we have vendors we send them to that have worked with New Directions in the past.
Oh, so they accept people to train them.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're kind of like offering their services, aren't they?
Yeah, because they still have to be here and they still have to check in with their case managers. And so the trainings, will give them bus tokens to go out to those trainings and come back. When they get those certificates, we can kind of advance them to employment.
Well, I'm glad you're both on the program because, you show the homeless vet out there that there is an alternative. You can contribute to society. You can get back into the mainstream. And I thank you for that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Philip, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I understand you're an alumni of New Directions, right?
Yes, I am.
And a veteran?
And a veteran. Yes.
So you have a special place in your heart for the vets that come here, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell our audience a little bit about what happens when a vet comes to New Directions, because eventually they end up with somebody like yourself, a case manager, right? What do you do? Do you analyze them? Do you set a program for them, a schedule? What do you do?
Well, there's quite a few things that we do for the veteran when he first come in. The first thing we try to do is to set their mind at ease. A lot of them are nervous, so I want them to relax and let them know that this is the right place for them. They're in the right place at the right time in their life. This is, because a lot of them are pretty nervous and stuff when we first
They're worried about what? They're going to be thrown out?
That could be part of it.
Yeah. They're going to be arrested?
Maybe
some of them
not.
have legal warrants out for them, don't they?
Yes, some of them actually, are court ordered here. They come in here and they may be court ordered from anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half.
Really?
This is you can stay in New Directions up to 2 years, but You know,
Right.
some guys come from the courts from anywhere from 6 months, to a year and a half.
Yvette, I meant to ask you about this. Is right now pretty standard with the courts, LA court system, that they have this diversion program for vets that qualify? I mean, are all judges amenable to that?
Well, we have veteran treatment courts here in Southern California,
You do?
and so it's a natural fit for these veterans to come into programs such as New Directions for Veterans.
Right.
But there are statutes that are applicable and they could be applied in any court in the system. So part of the things that are going on that's very exciting here in Southern California is the prospect of maybe introducing these statutes and educating the court systems and the judges that some of these statutes apply and they don't need to be treated in a veterans treatment court. They could be in any court system and still transfer some veterans over to facilities such as ours.
How do you get the rest of the court system to be aware of that?
It's about outreach and inreach. It's about outreach, engaging people so that the courts can learn about this. And I know that there are a lot of lawyers that are advocating for this. And so we belong to a collaboration called the USC Collaboration that meets once a month. And we talk about legal and reentry programs.
Right.
And then it's just about education. It's outreach, education, and having the staff to go in and educate the people that deal with incarcerated veterans and let them know that there are options to prisons and to jails.
Right. So walk us through when someone comes in this program and their initial needs are met. Maybe they're take a shower, get a bed, get admitted to the program, etc. When do you come into the picture and what do you do initially?
Well, initially, like you said, the gentlemen, the veterans, they are assigned a bed. Another New Direction worker does that. And by the time they get to me, they have their file already. And what I do is, like I said before, try to put them at ease, try to build a rapport with them, let them know that they're, in the right place. And then there are certain things certain paperwork that they have to sign and certain questions that we have to ask them to build their files.
Right.
Okay. And, that initial interview.
So what, I'm trying to understand, what are some of those questions? You're determining whether they're eligible, is that correct?
Well, actually, I don't do that.
Okay.
The person that actually does that is another person.
So that's before you?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
before me. By the time they get to me, they've already been accepted into the program.
Okay. So you're going to set up some sort of monitor for them in monitoring their progress through the next 2 years. Is that what you're going to do?
Right. What we do is, initially we fill out what we call an ISP. It's an individual service plan.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like I don't know what the word would be, a blueprint,
Right.
or like a blueprint of what these guys are going to try to accomplish while they're in the program. It can, they come in there, a lot of guys come in here and, they've been in their addiction for quite a while. So this is recovery for them, and they're
Right.
trying to recover a lot of aspects in their life that they haven't dealt with in a long time.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yvette, let me ask you this. So let's look at 2 years, for example. You looked at like George Hill. He was on the streets for 12 years. You have plenty of these people that have come in, that have been on the streets a long time. They've been using and abusing for a long time. I think the first priority would be, got to get them in a 12-step program. Do you require them to go every day? Like in AA, for example, which I'm familiar with, and the 12-step program, they recommend, nobody's going to drag you there, but they're going to recommend that you go to a meeting 3 times a day, in the morning, noon, and night, okay? And you do that, you get a sponsor, so you start communicating with somebody. What do you do here for that long-term drug addict or alcoholic to be able to overcome their addiction?
Well, first I'd like to mention that Philip is one of our wonderful staff members who has experienced it all.
Yeah.
So he is a veteran, served in the Navy honorably. Then he became homeless, substance abuser, got himself together through our program. Now he's an alumnus and an alumni. And now he's giving back by being a case manager. And a case manager position is so important because this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
So the veteran that does come in off the streets, and as you indicated, maybe very, very troubled, not knowing what it's like to have a roof over his or her head, well, Philip is the kind of guy that needs to establish that rapport, that relationship. So based on that individual, maybe that person has got needs Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step. Maybe that person needs some extreme mental health help.
Right.
And you met Matt Rohr, our master clinician or our director for clinical services. So we have to have the right tool that appeals to that individual.
Yeah.
We're trying to bring in a neurofeedback clinic. That's just one more tool that we could provide to our toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on the individual. But I'd like to give you a bird's eye view. What Philip does right here in transitional services is just one part of our portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get that person healthy, we help that person find a job if that's the direction he or she is taking. Then we have the permanent supportive housing. So all of that costs money.
Right.
The national policy these days has shifted to a housing first model. And that means we basically get people off the street, we put them in a safe environment, and then we hope that the services
Yeah.
catch up.
But the problem with all that is you're taking a troubled person and put them in a box
Yes.
with no treatment.
It is
and
a
not
challenge.
requiring them. I can see how this transitional program works because it's worked for a long time. Because you are under, for lack of a better term, you're under constant observation to live a life that is comporting with other society, other members there. You can't leave your clothes all over the floor. You gotta do things like when you're in the military, right?
Right.
But when you're isolated in a house, that's a problem. In an apartment.
It's a huge challenge. And then here in the transitional programs, it's voluntary for the most part, unless you're court ordered to come here.
Yeah.
But we also have bridge housing. That's it's a program where people can stay for up to 90 days, and they don't necessarily go through any sort of treatment program. It's sort of like until you're ready to accept change and you're willing and ready to accept a transition into a better, healthier lifestyle, you have the bridge program that we offer here in
Do
New
you
Direction.
send people to the bridge program?
Do I send
Yeah,
people?
yeah.
Well, the bridge program, they'll go there or either come here first.
So
the
what
bridge
Philip
program,
does-
is that part of New Direction?
It's part of New Directions. So New Directions, as I said in the previous show, we have intake. So it's a centralized intake.
Yeah.
So depending on where that veteran stands, that veteran may not be ready for the kinds of services or the case management that Philip provides.
Right.
That veteran may just not know what he or she wants,
Yeah.
or that veteran may be pretty healthy and is suitable for permanent supportive housing. And we talked about permanent supportive housing. There's a policy shift toward that. There's less funds available for programs such as this,
Right.
where Philip works, and more money toward the apartment type environment.
Okay, so why is that?
Well, it's a policy shift. The money is going toward permanent supportive housing because, for one, it cleans up the streets. So we have 4,500 veterans sleeping on the county streets of Los Angeles with no roofs over their head.
Yeah.
So the Housing First model cleans the problem up quickly, puts them into permanent supportive housing. It's not a bad model. It just has its own challenges. Philip isn't in a kind of program where it's very hands-on. You wake up here, your chow time is
Right.
here, you have this group, you have that program, you're seeing this therapist, you have
Structured.
very structured. It
Yeah.
works for a lot of us. I'm military 30 years, he was in the Navy for a few years. We know what structure is all about, and
Yeah.
a lot of us thrive on that. And
Yeah.
that's why this program is very successful in this building. But once guys go into the permanent supportive housing places that we have, beautiful environments, we have resident services coordinators.
Yeah.
These people get help, but it's establishing that relationship between the New Directions staff and the veteran that goes behind that closed door. The
Yeah.
challenge is that guy may wake up in the morning and he may say, I really need a fifth of vodka to start my day.
Right.
You don't know that. When that door closes, you don't know what kind of troubles.
But you're still paying. New Directions is still paying for their housing,
There is
providing their housing.
We're providing housing, but in that case, they do pay. They pay some portion of
Okay.
their income.
So they got to
it's a
get some
low
money
income-
someplace.
Exactly, disability, low income type housing.
Yeah.
It's landlord-tenant law, so
Yeah.
they have to be good neighbors, good tenants. They have to pay their rent.
Yeah.
So they have to be ready for that, though.
Yeah.
And as Matt Rohr, our clinician, had said earlier, we want to provide the transition to make sure that person has a landing when they leave our building here, and we do find them another place to live, that they're not lost in the cracks, that we know that maybe that person requires a little bit more hands-on.
Okay, so what message would both of you like to send to corporate America and the government, right, and county services, whoever provides money, about why they should continue to support New Directions as they have in the past, right, where you can, handle more transitional housing, et cetera? What message would you like to send, Yvette?
Well, I'd like to say that we really did not do well by our veterans in your era.
Yeah.
When the Vietnam veterans came back and they were just treated so horribly, I don't think we've ever seen the end of the internalized issues that those people have had. So maybe some of these people are the ones that are ending up on the streets, or even the constant years of war that we've had, the challenges with Iraq, Afghanistan, the number of men and women that are serving, that just because they may come back looking like they're intact does not mean that they are intact. It may mean that they're not able to come back and just pick up where they left off. And so when they find themselves troubled, they find themselves trying to escape some of the experiences that they suffered overseas or experiences that they suffered because of their military service, we owe it to them to provide them a safe place. We provide the services and the support necessary for them to be successful in their lives. So we don't want them to sleep on the streets. We want to give them a place. We want to give them great case management from people like Philip, who's been there. He's done that. He's served his country, and now he's giving back. So for our corporate sponsors and for our volunteers, we need your help. We need your help because this costs money.
Right.
Salaries cost money, the programs cost money, the equipment costs money, making sure our veterans have got nice suits so they could go out and get back in corporate America, and earn that paycheck and earn some sort of just being able to hold their heads high. That is so important to return that self-esteem that they've lost somewhere along the way. And we can't do it alone.
Right. And as you're talking, we're showing the New Directions website. You have contacts where they can get a hold of you and everyone at New Directions, plus ways they can contribute, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for being in. Keep up the good work, man. You're a success story.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.